Yummy.
Hey everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name's Amanda, and today we are going to make some dill crunchy pickles and can them up. I went outside and collected some more cucumbers. I like to see what I have before I start canning everything up. That way I can try to portion my liquids accordingly and how many jars I need. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's can. So I have jars in my dishwasher washing up, and I need to figure out how many cucumbers I have from the ones that I picked a few days ago and the ones that I just picked today. So we're gonna go ahead and count those up. And then I'm also gonna wash them up. You wanna wash them really good and also remove any of the hardness, like little spikes on the side. Yeah, look how gorgeous that is. All right, so I have 21 cucumbers. I'm super excited. Picked 6 today and some more from the other day. And I normally try to do like a jar per cucumber because I don't like to overpack my pickles in a jar because you don't want air bubbles when you can it. And that way then I also find it's easy for my family too, for the size, for like making sure that we use it up once we open it too. And then that way I find it stays fresher as well. So let's go ahead and get these washed up, and then we're gonna slice these up while the jars are getting cleaned in the dishwasher. I got all my cucumbers washed up and my rings too. I have my cutting board out and my big bowl that I'm gonna put all the cucumber slices in. I'll probably actually grab another bowl to be on the safe side. I am so excited I'm finally tackling this project. I've had these cucumbers for a few days, picked some today, and it definitely needed to get done sooner than later. I like to can when they're nice and fresh. I always cut off the ends and discard the ends because you don't want those. And when I cut my slices, I like to make them anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. And I don't have a mandolin. You can use a mandolin if you'd like to. That way they're all portioned to the right size of what you would like. But I just cut mine by hand. This year I grew 3 different types of cucumbers. This here is the bush cucumber. This is the dasher cucumber. And then this is the pickling cucumber. So some speed bumps I hit over the past few years of canning when it came to making pickles is to definitely make sure you have all your ingredients beforehand, like especially before the season starts, because sometimes it can be really hard to find some of the ingredients you need, especially when you need it. So I like to make sure that I have some of the stuff on hand in my house. Okay, so I have all my cucumbers cut up. I cut up 23 garlic cloves. I have those prepped and ready. I have everything out that I need to do for canning some pickles. And we are gonna go ahead by making the brine and stuffing the jars with the cucumbers. Let me show you how I have everything set up. For this recipe, we're gonna be using black peppercorn, dill seed, mustard seed, pickling crisp, pickling canning salt, garlic, distilled white vinegar, and you want to make sure that it's 5% acidity. And I have my canning tools. And I don't always use them all. I use this one, this one, this one, this one. This one I don't really use a lot. And then my counter is, my kitchen's really small, but hi, buddy. I definitely, utilize my space and make it work. You find out your flow of how you want to set up in your kitchen. So I have my big pot for my brine. I have the big pot back there for water bathing the jars. I have all these cucumbers cut up and ready. I'm gonna mix my spices in here, and my jars are all clean, my lids are clean, and my rings are clean. So let's go ahead and get started by making the brine first. We are going to start by adding 10 cups of water to make our brine. And I doubled the size because I have quite a bit of cucumbers that I cut up, and I'd rather have extra brine than not have enough and have to remake it again. So this is a nice one step. Let's get it done. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add 10 cups of water to the pot. That's 6 cups. 8 cups. This makes 10 cups now. Now we're gonna go ahead and add 7 cups of distilled vinegar. Okay, I should re-say that we're doing distilled white vinegar. Oh, he's busy down there. All right, so we're adding a total of 7 cups of distilled white vinegar. So that's 4 cups now of distilled white vinegar. 6 cups now. Oh yeah? Seven cups. Now we're going to need 4 tablespoons of pickling salt. If I can get it out. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we need 4 tablespoons of white sugar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that we have everything in our pot for our brine, we're gonna go ahead and bring it to medium-high heat, and we're gonna bring it to a boil, and we're gonna stir it and make sure that the sugar and the salt fully dissolves into the water and the white vinegar. So we're gonna keep an eye on that, and in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and start stuffing my jars with the cucumbers, and then I will make the other stuff to add to it. So that way I make sure I have enough, because there's quite a bit of cucumbers to use up here. So we're gonna go ahead and stuff that first. Now I am just placing all my slices in the jars. I'm not packing them completely tight. I like to kind of make sure that there's a little wiggle room in there. If I have like a little one here and there, I try to like put it in on the side of the jar so that way it uses up the space. But I have tried packing them tight before. It was the first time I did do pickles, and I had air bubbles. Now, there was nothing that bad had happened to them, but I definitely tried to make sure that I do not have air bubbles going forward. So I definitely make sure that I make it to where how I like packing them. Now I am placing the garlic cloves in each jar. I actually had to cut another one because I had 24 jars total. So I'm really glad that I definitely washed up actually 25 jars. I washed up 25 jars. So I'm really glad that I had extra. I just had to cut 1 extra garlic clove, which was fine. And you know, this is perfect. I'm just, you know, making sure that placing these cucumbers in, that they're not going to pop up over the brine when I pour the brine in. So I'm kind of just stuffing these on the side. As you can see on the top one, I'm just stuffing there. I am really glad that I ended up washing 25 jars, because originally I said that I normally think of it as 1 cucumber per jar, and I had 21 cucumbers. So I was like, oh, let's do some extra ones just in case. And I'm really glad I had that extra few jars. My brine is to a boil, and I actually have 24 jars. So I'm hoping that I will have enough. I know I had doubled it. This tends to happen sometimes to me. I'm always like, oh, I'm going to add more. So let's see what happens. Now I'm going to go ahead and start making the mustard seed and the dill seeds, and go ahead and mix that so we get those all into there. But I got the garlic cloves as well, all throughout of them. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off while I go ahead and make the other stuff. We need 10 teaspoons of dill seed. Dill seed was one of the ingredients that I had a really hard time trying to find when I wanted to can. I don't know if it was because of COVID time or just everyone was canning at that time, but it was really hard to find this one. 8 teaspoons of mustard seeds. You need 64 black peppercorns. The recipe I will post down below in the description. And I actually used 70. I started to lose count. It was okay to put a little extra in there. We're going to go ahead and give this a stir. And then we are going to divide it into all the jars. The reason why I like to add this mixture last is because it's better to know how many jars you have first before dividing all this into the jars. I am actually taking like half a teaspoon and placing it into each jar. I'll go around by doing that first to all of them, and then the remaining amount that I have left, I will then just eye that out again between all 24 jars. This definitely works out easier doing it this way. And then I'm not making a jar dirty that, you know, I didn't fill up with cucumbers. 4 more jars that kind of just, you know, needed a little bit more because they were towards the end. I tried, you know, even it out as much as I could between the portions that I had mixed. So I am just going to improvise and add a little bit more of the seasonings to it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add the pickling brine into the jars, and I like using a measuring cup, and this is a wide mouth funnel that we are going to use to put the pickling brine in on it. So let's go ahead and do that. And you want to leave a half head space. When your brine has cooled down, it definitely will help make your pickles have a nice crunch as well. Hot sometimes can make them softer. Hi. My littlest is playing with my apron, the string on the back. Once I have all the jars filled with the liquid, I will then go around measuring it with the measuring tool to make sure I have a ½ inch of headspace. And you will start to get used to just eyeing it out for really how much you need to add to it. You know, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more you feel confident with it. Don't be afraid of doing water bath canning. It's really easy. I remember I was really nervous and afraid the first time I ever did it. And I was like, what if I break a jar? You know, you just really do learn as you go. And it is rewarding, especially when you have a garden and that you can then preserve the stuff that you grow. Okay, now we're going to add in some pickle crisp. And we are going to do a ½ teaspoon in each jar. Here's what it looks like. I'm using pickle crisp granules. Now you can add these in before you add your brine in, or you can add it in after you add your brine in. It does not matter. I definitely prefer to have it in there because it definitely helps to give it a nice crispy crunch to it. First time I did cucumbers and I did not use it, they were definitely really soggy and I had to figure out what did I do wrong, and I read about this stuff and it really does help. Adding the pickle crisp to it, if I have one that, you know, doesn't dissolve, then I just, at the end after I get it all done, I just kind of go back through to make sure that it definitely is in the liquid, because you want it to go into the liquid so that way your pickles stay nice and crisp. I have done this without the pickle crisp before, and I did not have the texture of the pickles that I liked, where you get that nice crunch to it. So I definitely like adding this to it because it does help give it that nice crunch. And I have also tried where I've done less than ½ a teaspoon, but I definitely recommend the ½ teaspoon because it definitely gives it that nice crispy, you know, that nice crunch when you open a fresh jar of pickles. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more jars that actually did not have enough pickling brine for it. So I made another batch of it, but I did not double it for this one. So let's hope that this is enough. And then after that's done, then we can start putting the lids on and start water bathing it. For the new batch of brine, I only used 5 cups of water and 3½ cups of white distilled vinegar, 4 tablespoons of pickling salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. And this worked out perfect for the 8 jars that I had left that needed more brine. It was perfect. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and measure for the ½ inch headspace on the jars. And if you have a jar that if the pickle is like this one here is overflowing and you don't have the correct amount, you just can move it around to another jar that has enough space to add that extra cucumber to. So I double check every jar, and if you need to, you can take a spoon to move some of the liquid around and move it to another one that may need more than some of the other ones, and definitely do this. My first brine, I let it cool down before I put it in the jar. The second brine, I put it in it hot. I have noticed sometimes if it's too hot, it can make your pickles really soft, so watch out for that. Okay, so I put some water in measuring cups. I'm gonna go ahead and microwave this. And I'm gonna do mine for 3.5 minutes. And then once that's done, I'm gonna take my lids and I'm gonna put them in that glass measuring cup, so that way these can heat up. Hi, hang on. So I'll show you that in a second. While that is heating up, I have my water starting to bring it to a boil, because you know, I only have so much counter space, so I really have to like rotate how I'm doing things. And also I'm going to start wiping down the rims of each jar. You can use white distilled vinegar or water. I've done both and they both work very well. So let's go ahead and start wiping ours down, and today I'm just going to be using water to wipe mine down. So I have wet just part of a paper towel, and I have some dry so I can wet it and then dry it. So I like to go through cleaning up each jar, drying each jar. I'm going to do this for all the jars, wiping them down with the water and then drying them as well. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take our lids and put them in, and I like to put my rubber part down. Everyone does canning differently. I have seen some people do this. I have seen some people not do this. I do this because it also heats up that wax seal. So when you put your lid on top with the ring, then and you water bath it, it really seals it tight. So I definitely like doing this. That's what I like to do. And you don't have to do it, but it's something I like to do when I can. While the lids are in the hot water, I am going to continue wiping down the rest of the jars and then drying them with the other end of the paper towel. I let them sit in the water for about a good 3 minutes. Once that was done and I was done wiping down my jars, I placed the lid on top. I twisted the rings on top, and you don't want to do too tight. You want to do like hand tight, and you're going to do this for all the jars. And I do this you know, I get it all done at once, and then that way, once this is done, then the water should hopefully be to a boil, and I can go ahead and start placing these in the pot and start canning them up. Set up to where I'm going to put the jars that just got canned in the water on the towel. That way they can sit there for 24 hours. I also have my little rack on the bottom that has feet down the bottom, so that way it's not sitting directly on top of the pot. You want it to sit off the pot, so that way the glass jars aren't directly on top of the pot. Now my water is to a good boil. I'm going to go ahead and put some jars in, and we're going to boil the jars in there for 10 minutes. I got 5 jars in there. Now we're going to go ahead and put the lid on and set the timer for 10 minutes. My timer is about to go off for 10 minutes, and you can see that it's at a nice boil. You want to keep it at that for those 10 minutes. And then, so it's going to go off soon. And then once the timer goes off, we're going to turn the stove off, and we're going to let it rest for 5 minutes, and then we will remove them. So I will set the timer then for 5 minutes. Hi, up. All right, so I'm turning the stove completely off, and I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. Once the timer is up for 5 minutes, we are going to then remove the... It's dinner time. I'm then going to... Hang on. It's okay. Hi. So again, once the timer goes off for 5 minutes, we're then going to remove them, and then we're going to turn it back on to get it to a nice boil again, and we're going to keep repeating the process until the rest of the jars are done. I want to say I have 19 more jars to go, and I can only fit about 5 in the water bath canning that I'm using. So it is a process, so you try to, like, you know, time it out when you have time. I was wanting to get to it earlier this morning, but we kind of had a lot of stuff going. Hey, hey. We kind of had a lot of stuff going on, so I kind of got a little bit of a late start on this. So it is running into dinner time, but you know, it is well worth it. Yes, yes. It is well worth it when, you know, you are growing cucumbers and then you can can them. So, all right. I will come back in about 4 minutes. All right, my 5-minute timer just went off, and we're gonna go ahead and remove. Hi. Hi. We're gonna go ahead. Where did it go? Where did it go? Do you know? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove the jars. I like storing my pickles in my pantry, and I do not stack anything on top of the jars because I don't want to tamper with how they are sealed. And some people do remove the rings and put them in the pantry. I leave my rings on just because, you know, I have kids and they move things around, and I just feel safer that way with them on. Now, if you do, you want to have some right away, I would say let it sit for the 24 hours on the counter, and then you can have it in the fridge for up to 7 days. Now, I like to leave mine sitting on the counter for 24 hours before I even write on them and move them to my pantry. And within that 24 hours, you will start to hear everything start going pop, 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 pop. That's what you want to hear, and that is a good sign. That is definitely a good sign. Okay, so now that I got all 5 of my jars out, I'm gonna put my lid back on, and I'm gonna turn my stove back up to high to bring this back to a boil. And once it's back to a boil, then we're gonna go ahead and add 5 more jars back in, and I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. So we're gonna repeat the process until we are done. Okay. Okay, my water is now back to a good boil. I'm gonna go ahead and put the next 5 in. Now, I have read it is really good when you let your pickles sit in the pantry for up to 3 weeks to a month before even opening one can up and having it. That way you get all that good flavor. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put my lid on. Let it get to a boil again and set my timer for 10 minutes. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. My jars so far that I have done the water bath canning with, and you can see that I don't have any bubbles in here. I did not pack mine really tight with pickles because you know, the one time I did really pack them tight, I had a lot of air bubbles in there, and I was not happy with that. So from now on, I've not packed them completely tight. I've just made it to where you still have wiggle room in there, so that way you don't get any air bubbles in it. I mean, look how perfect those are. I mean, I know, you know, I probably could get a few more in. These ones I have not done the water bathing with yet, but there are no air bubbles. That's how I like it. My 10-minute timer just went off. I'm going to go ahead and turn the stove off again. Set my timer for 5 minutes. And then once the 5 minutes are up, remove the lid and take the jars out, and we're going to again repeat the steps. Oh, there's some popped. I heard some pop earlier, and I hear another one pop. It's great to hear it pop. That's what you want to hear, is when they go pop. All right, my 5-minute timer went off. Removing the lid, taking out these 5 jars. When you do hear the pops, that means that the lids have sealed, and that means they are locked tight, and that is definitely a good sign that you canned everything very well. Brought the water back to a boil, so now I'm putting the next 5 jars in. And the reason why I have my jars sit on my counter for 24 hours and don't move them until the 24 hours is up, because lids can take up to 12 to 24 hours to properly seal. So you will hear some pops within that time frame. Now, who doesn't like dancing in the kitchen to kill some time? I just turned it off. We're going to let it rest for 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 5 minutes. The 5-minute timer went up. I'm pulling the 5 jars out. And my goal is to try to make a supply of pickles for a year to have in my pantry, because we do a lot of stuff with pickles. We love to do tuna wraps, pickles in it, hamburgers, pickles. I mean, even sometimes for a snack, open up a jar. And I always try to make it to where we use up a jar within 7 days when we open it. But it's nice where these can be in your pantry for up to a year. I really love that. We even love putting them on sandwiches. Who does not love pickles on a sandwich? Getting the next 5 jars in. Here's how much water I have over top of my jars. That way they are completely submerged under the water. You definitely want to make sure that they are not sticking out of the water. I hope that you watching my journey with canning has been helpful, and I hope that you have learned some things from it, and I hope you will enjoy canning just as much as I do, because it is very rewarding. So I hope you have fun with it. I'm really excited. I'm on my last 4, and then I can just clean up the kitchen, get some pajamas on, and relax. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And do not be afraid to can with the water bath method. It is really easy. Don't be scared. Definitely try it. Have a great day, guys.